Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for a little bit of spicy pre-modern action for you today. This is a deck that kind of evolved from this Oath of Druids deck I played a little while back, and I thought the Turbofog element in that deck was kind of interesting, so could we build upon that? So this is what I've come up with, a dedicated Turbofog deck. So the aim of the game is to use Howling Mine and Horn of Greed to make sure that both my hand and my opponent's hand are well stocked. Whilst our hand is stocked, we're going to be gaining life off of this Ivory Tower. Whilst our opponent's hand is full, they're going to be taking damage from the Black Vise. And eventually they should burn down from this while we protect ourselves using Constant Mists, Moment's Peace, and Tangle as our fog effects. Now, two of these have multiple uses, so the Constant Mist we can use every turn, the Moment's Peace we can use twice. We do want to set ourselves up in a situation where we have the Constant Mist. We also have Glacial Chasm as a fog effect. This is a land that we can play, and we have to pay 2 life plus X, where X is the amount of turns it's been in play, basically, because it's cumulative upkeep. But this just prevents damage to us. So this stops us getting burned out by lightning bolts and things as well. And we've got ourselves an Exploration to help power this all out, so we can keep making land drops. So we've got plenty of stuff to sacrifice to Constant Mist, whilst also going up on lands to do other things like firing off a Naturalize or playing a Tsabo's Web to keep stuff at bay. Now, we are running Snow-Covered Forests. There was a reason that we were running Snow-Covered Forests, but unfortunately that card isn't on Magic Online. This card, Sunstone. So it's a 3-mana artifact where you pay 2, sacrifice a snow-covered land, and you get to fog for a turn. This was the card that I was going to play as a one-of, but when I loaded up this deck on Magic Online, it's not actually available on Magic Online, so we didn't get to run it today. That's why we've got the one-of Tangle instead. The other thing worth mentioning is Gaea's Blessing. If we end up in a very, very long game, we can then use the Gaea's Blessing to shuffle in cards a few times over so that we don't deck before our opponent does, because we can shuffle some stuff in, draw this, shuffle some stuff in, and just keep cycling these two and hopefully keep ourselves alive while our opponent decks out. Now, there are some problems with a strategy like this. If your opponent's not that bothered about combat damage and things like that, it can be awkward for us. So our sideboard is pretty anti-blue. So we have 4 Xantid Swarm so we can try and resolve our bits and pieces and just get the Black Vise in, because they're going to be keeping cards in hand in theory. We've got another Naturalize and some Tranquil Domain for the things we need to blow up. Tranquil Domain is only going to blow up our Exploration, which is fine. We have 3 Wall of Blossoms for aggressive decks if we want to have more defense, and we have a full set of chokes here, because we don't want our opponent, if they're blue, to be able to use all these spicy blue tricks to get through what we're doing. So that's the plan. It's pretty rough and ready. We're going to see how it goes today, but I've really been enjoying experimenting in this format, so have another experiment. Alright, remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 6,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you can help me do that, that would be lovely. Alright, let's jam some Turbofog. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3for1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3for1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over €500. Okay, we've got an interesting opener, I suppose. We'll keep this. Would like to find a card draw spell, but we've got time here. Black Vise against a blue deck tends to be pretty good. Okay, Constant Mist. We got a fog. We just need to find the turbo element of things. Alright, we played out our Ivory Tower to try and see if our opponent had some sort of Force Spike, because I don't want to get killed by a spell there that can mess us up. So we're going to gain a bunch of life here, because we do need our Black Vise to resolve. We have very few win conditions, so we have to be very protective around them. Would they counterspell an Exploration? They might do. Yes, the bait. Okay, so now I think I'm going to try this Black Vise, now that they don't have any Force Spike mana available. Alright, we're in with the Black Vise, so our win condition has begun. We do need to find turbo effects. Okay, our opponent's probably playing like Lightning Angel deck, so this is going to be an Exalted Angel. This matchup could be difficult because they are a blue deck, and they have Meddling Mages. But we're going to be gaining a lot of life as time goes on, in theory. We just need to find Howling Mine or Horn of Greed. We don't have the mana to cast the Horn of Greed just yet. Howling Mine. Boom. Let's get this in. Our opponent's probably going to be quite happy to see this, but hopefully it can drain our opponent down in a way that puts us in the driving seat. Now, they can also counterspell our fog spells, which is not ideal for us. Alright, they have the Angel. Sure, you can gain 4 life. It's not what this is about right now. Alright, so we get to draw an extra card because of our Howling Mine. Ivory Tower not gaining us as much life as I would like it to yet, but we have our engine in now, so hopefully our hand's going to keep getting stocked, especially since one of our spells is going to be coming back to our hand repeatedly. We can play out another Ivory Tower here, and we can try a Tangle this time. If this gets caught by a Daze or something like that, or like a little bit of soft permission, I'd rather we lose this than the Constant Mists. But the counter magic decks is where having the Glacial Chasm is going to come in really handy. They also have a Vigilance creature, which Tangle doesn't get the most value of, because this is 2 fogs in 1, basically. Alright, a mountain from our opponent. I don't think we even have to fog this right now. Like, it's just 4 life. We want to get set up, and this fog can do more work later on. Alright, our Ivory Tower is not quite doing the life gain we want them to do just yet. Tsabo's Web. That does cantrip. That is interesting. Let's get Tsabo's Web in. I don't think this is going to impact our opponent's mana base at all. Right, and we'll get another Black Vise in. Okay. So we're going to take another 4 this turn, and then we're going to start turtling up with these fogs. Impulse. You got it, opponent. Our opponent should deck before us, because A, they're a blue deck, but also we play the Howling Mine, they get the first draw off of it. So, a big hit from the Vice, but it's obviously offset by the Exalted Angel. But that's okay. We're going to start doing some fogging soon. So this could be a Lightning Angel, putting us down to 7. Yep, that's fine. And they're holding up what looks like a mana leak. I did say that it would be tricky to do some of the blue matchups, because they can just counterspell our fogs when we need them. Especially a blue deck that has aggressive threats like this. Alright. I think we play out this snow-covered forest, and then we're just going to use our fog effects. Could do with some Glacial Chasm action, just to buy us a little bit more time. So these are going to attack. We're going to cast a Tangle first, because that one gets counterspelled. It's not as bad as having our Constant Mist countered. Are they going to bother interacting with Tangle? Looks like the answer to that is yes. Alright, then I'm going to cast this with buyback. Okay, we have successfully fogged our opponent for a turn. Meddling Mage being in their deck is very scary for us trying to keep casting Constant Mists. I think our opponent's deck is pretty much the exact deck I would want to play against what we're doing. Can we draw a Glacial Chasm though? That would be nice. Really not gaining enough life from these Ivory Towers. Like, we'll be thankful for them in other matchups, I'm sure. Glacial Chasm. There we go. I would like to play another Black Vise. And then I'm going to play this Glacial Chasm. And I'm going to sacrifice this snow-covered forest. And then we're going to chill. And hopefully we can offset the Glacial Chasm damage with our Ivory Towers for a little bit. So next turn we take 2, but we draw 2 cards. So then we'll be getting 4, which will be the exact amount we take off the Glacial Chasm. And then we can just draw more. And all the while our opponent's going to be taking jabs from this Black Vise. So maybe we can get there. I don't know if our opponent has any way of dealing with Glacial Chasm. I don't think this deck gets to run Wastelands as a 4-colour deck. Sorry, as a 3-colour deck in Premodern. Another morph. Alright, so you're saying you've got some guys. I understand. Doesn't matter which order we stack these just yet, but it will do next turn. So we'll pay. And we'll draw 2 cards. And then we'll just pass the turn here. I guess we could cast a Gaia's Blessing, but if they counter it, that could actually be kind of annoying. So we're just going to sit here and make sure that next turn we're gaining 4 life to offset our chasm. They're ploughing their own creatures to survive our triple Black Vices. That's an interesting sign for us. I guess they have enough damage anyway, so they don't really care. And they're just trying to get cards out of their hand. So it makes sense. Okay, it's going back to us here. So now we stack this with this on the bottom, the Ivory Tower's on the top. And gain some life. Right, I would like to have another Ivory Tower, please. Just sitting here in my Ivory Tower. So next turn we take 6 damage to the Glacial Chasm, but we gain 9 life. This doesn't work, right? Damage dealt to us is prevented, but they still get to do the impulse side of this card. But we're gaining 9 life a turn off of these Ivory Towers. I've been watching Neon Mushroom's content lately, where he played a prison deck in a tournament and is going over the games that they played. And he always mentions that he's doing it for the sickos out there like prison. So I'm kind of trying to touch that same vibe today. We are doing one for the sickos who love Turbofog and stopping your opponent from being able to play the game. Okay, so we put this on the bottom. Then we gain a bunch of life. Ice. So this is going to stop us drawing a card off the Howling Mine. It's also going to stop them drawing a card off the Howling Mine. But we just gained a bunch of life here. And at some point we can draw another Glacial Chasm. I am okay, I think, to play this one out. Let's get Horn of Greed out. Alright, I'll play a land because it's going to replace itself in our hand. A Black Vise, you say? So this next turn is going to hit us for 2 damage, effectively, if we keep all of our cards in hand. I could play out the Exploration and keep drawing extra cards. Our opponent didn't counter the last thing. But I think we just want to keep up with maximum cards in hand here. So if our opponent plays lands, they replace himself in their hand. Fact or fiction? Okay. You can have a land and... No, we want to give them more cards if they have this, right? So we give them these or the Lightning Angel. Or we could just do 4 because we don't care about the Lightning Angel. Tapping this doesn't really matter either because it draws a card. It doesn't really matter either way. These cards aren't great. This is going to make our opponent deck quicker if that's the thing we have to do as well. They've gone up to 7 with our triple Black Vise in play though. This is a lot of damage. We're kind of doing the thing here. I thought this would be really horrible, but we are kind of getting somewhere. Alright. There is the Lightning Angel. So they are dead next turn, right? 1, 2, 3. No, they're not quite dead next turn. This doesn't deal with any combat damage. Right, so Chasm on the bottom. We gain 9 life. Okay, this is where the Ivory Towers do look very good. Glad I appropriately built this deck. Okay, so we don't need to sacrifice this just yet. We can play this forest and draw a card. We can deploy another Black Vise. How do you like that one, opponent? Probably not a lot. You can deploy this Exploration to go down to 7 cards. You can play the Snow-Covered Forest to make sure we've got mana to cast things if something goes wrong for us. Alright, double fog effect. Excellent. So our opponent's got 6 cards and they're going to take 4 damage. Sorry, each one's going to deal them 2, right? 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so they have to plow their own creature here. Who needs creature removal when your opponent just does it for you? This is a thing of beauty we're doing right now. Okay. What is your plan here, opponent? Meddling Mage. Sure. That doesn't actually matter that much because we have the Chasm. Now, if they have a Wasteland, which I don't think they can have in their 3-colour deck, they should name Constant Mists here. Maybe we're supposed to fire off a Constant Mist in response, just in case they do have a Wasteland in their 3-colour Premodern deck. Oh, they named Ivory Tower. Okay. That is the wrong read there. But that probably means they don't have access to a Wasteland in their deck anywhere. Can they fail to find off the Impulse? I don't know. Okay, there's a mountain. You can draw an extra card there, opponent. We're going to be Swords to Plowsharing our creatures, I'm sure. Okay, there is a Meddling Mage. What would you like to name? They can't stop the Glacial Chasm. We can also let the Glacial Chasm go this turn because we're going to play a new one. They named Tangle. You got it, opponent. Put the Chasm on the bottom. Gain a bunch of life, let the Chasm go. Because we've got another one. Let's play a Glacial Chasm out. So we get to draw a card. Then we can sacrifice this tap forest. And then we can Howling Mine. Play out another forest. Draw a card here. Constant Mists. Is it worth playing anything out here? I don't think it is. I think we can just go to discard. Discard an Exploration. I think we've done enough here. Alright, they are Swords to Plowsharing their creatures. This is Magic the Gathering as it was intended. Just weird little janky artifacts wrecking our opponent. Right, you can draw a card from that land you just played their opponent. Enjoy. Disenchant on the Horn of Greed. You've got it. And a Meddling Mage. Sure. Horn of Greed. Okay. It's just another angel. Sure. They just need to keep playing cards out of their hand. But we're going to be gaining a lot of life here. So you have to pay 2 for the Glacial Chasm. But then we get 9 life off of these Ivory Towers. Which has got to be annoying for our opponent. Okay, I would like to cast this Howling Mine. I would also like to Gaia's Blessing. We're going to shuffle back in a Glacial Chasm and a couple of lands, I suppose. A Moment's Peace. That's nice to have as well. We've got 9 cards, so we can play this one out. And we can probably just go to cleanup and discard our Exploration. Right, no Black Vise damage this turn. But our opponent will be decking a lot quicker than we will. They're not cantripping off of lands anymore. And we can't get things off the board like Meddling Mage. There's no Dismembers in this format that we can lean into for our removal either. We could play Desert Twister for 6 mana. That's about the best we have. Alright. First outing, first game, a win. Now what do we do? Because it gets a lot harder from here. Choke is interesting to me, obviously. We could just play the stuff we have for blue decks. I think I'm a fan of that. So we don't need Tsabo's Web in this matchup, so that can get out. We don't need Naturalizers, I don't think, either, so they can get out. And then we just need 3 more cuts here. We're not cutting any of this, obviously. The Gaia's Blessing, I think, is useful because our opponent can maybe wriggle out of the situations they're in. And we want to shuffle back in some Black Vises and that sort of jam. So I guess we're probably losing a Tangle, a Constant Mists, and... is it a Moment's Peace here? Maybe it's a Moment's Peace. So we could run something like Defense Grid to make sure we can resolve our spells. But the problem is we want to cast spells on our opponent's turn, which is why we have the Xantid Swarms. But let's try this. Ivory Tower into Horn of Greed. I don't really want double Gaia's Blessing. I think we can mulligan this. Yes, this seems good to me. We keep this, we put back the Gaia's Blessing. Hopefully we can draw a Xantid Swarm on our first turn. I'll be honest, Xantid Swarm is an absolute banger in this format. The amount of games I've won just because of Xantid Swarm is surprisingly high. Alright, so they have a City of Brass. A Choke. Big fan of the Choke here. We have 20 forests and 4 Glacial Chasms, so we do need to have access to... Alright, we're getting Lightning straight away. So we do need to have access to a few more lands. Get this going. Because this doesn't produce mana. The classic City of Brass Reflecting Pool. It's beautiful. So they're almost certainly going to counter this Howling Mine. And this Choke isn't going to do the most. Oh, we're just getting iced. I assume that's what's happening here. You got it, opponent. Okay, we found the land we want. That's good news. We can Howling Mine around like 4 spiky type stuff. Alright, let's Howling Mine. I assume we're going to see... oh, it's an Impulse. That's not a counter spell. Alright, we're just in with it. That is wonderful news for us. What we don't want to see is Meddling Mages. That's the thing that we're trying to dodge here. Alright, 2 Lightning Bolts to the face. We can recoup that life loss at some point. We're just going to get hit with an Angel here. Looks like it's Angel time. This is meaning they're going to tap down. So the Choke isn't actually as good as I was hoping it would be. Because our opponent hasn't got any islands. They had multiple last time. So we get to draw an extra card here. A Black Vise. Okay, I think I'm going to play a Horn of Greed. Play a land out. Trigger the Horn of Greed. Playing out the Black Vise. Do we have to turtle up behind a chasm already? I don't think we have to turtle up behind a chasm just yet. Then we're going to get the Vice in. So our opponent's going to have more things like Seal of Cleansing and the Disenchants, that sort of jam. So we're probably just going to see our Black Vise get disenchanted here. Right, they are cracking a Flooded Strand. They're casting some sort of 3-drop here. Or is it just another Angel? It's another Angel. Okay. So we do need to get things going pretty quickly here before this damage gets to the super scary point. Okay. So what are we doing here? I would like to cast a Howling Mine. I will play this land to draw off the Horn of Greed. I will deploy this Exploration. Seems like our spells are resolving here. Play this land. Okay, there's the Ivory Tower that we wanted. Alright. Is this going to be a 4-spike? A null. Okay. We don't get to play another land. In our opponent's upkeep, we're going to Moment's Peace, I think. And try and bridge the gap. Alright, we managed to get through it. That means we're not taking any damage this turn. They could double bolt us. That's how we lose this turn. But then afterwards, hopefully, we can draw enough stuff to get where we need to go. Okay, so they can get rid of our Moment's Peace here. They just get rid of it straight away. But that prevention effect is already working for us. But we get to draw a lot of cards this turn. Maybe this Choke isn't as good as I thought it was. Maybe we shouldn't have them in. Okay, so we can play out this. Alright, I'm going to Horn of Greed here. Do I want to play this Chasm? I don't think playing the Chasm works well for us. We have 5 mana, so we can pay around a mana leak. Alright, I'm going to go for... okay, we could Exploration and play another land here. Our opponent doesn't seem to be countering things, so let's keep digging. So we don't just want to play out this Glacial Chasm just yet. Another Constant Miss. That gives us 2 goes. Okay, we can play out another Exploration here. Keep that digging going. Choke. We're not interested in playing out the Choke just yet. Fact or fiction? Interesting. We want to separate these two. So I think we go for This Prophetic Bolt is kind of scary. Because this can find a lightning bolt. I think we might be in trouble here, team. Let's see which pile they go for. Okay, they went for the Mana Leak. I'm going to cast this Constant Mist with buyback. Here's the Mana Leak. We can pay. Oh, it's Counterspell. So this means they have a Mana Leak that they can fire off, which means we're just super Deadsville here. Okay, maybe they'll cast a spell of some description and then give us a better window for this. I think we're going to die here, and I don't think this choke is any good. Where is my Sunstone? Alright, so we didn't quite get where we needed to go there. Maybe we need more fog effects rather than these chokes, because they're only tapping down a few of our opponent's lands at the end of the day. So let's get rid of these and bring back in the Tangle, Constant Mist, and the Moment's Peace. And then we get one other card that we can have in if we want. I guess we'll take a Wall of Blossoms, because this can block a Meddling Mage. Okay. The opponent didn't have as many islands as I thought they had. Okay, I like this hand. Let's get in Xantid Swarm. Our opponent says, hi YouTube. Say hello to them. I'm glad that they're enjoying what we're putting down as well. Are we getting lightning bolt straight away? No. So we've got our little trigger from our Xantid Swarm now. We can play whatever we want here. I think I just want to get the Howling Mine up and running. That'll help us secure a land drop for next turn. And then we can start deploying all these things. So they could like lightning bolt our Xantid Swarm and then annul our creature. Right, they're going for a Meddling Mage here. What are you going to play here? If you name Black Vise, this game gets kind of awkward for us. They've named Black Vise. Okay. The game is awkward for us. We didn't find the land either. That is awkward. Let's get in. I guess we should have attacked first. But our opponent can't really run free counter magic in their deck because they don't have enough islands. Okay, so we're on the Gaia's Blessing plan now. Maybe we could have run like one. I think is it Miser's Cage is the same thing as Black Vise but costs more, but deals more damage. So if they've got 5 or more cards, it deals 2 damage. So it doesn't go up to 3 damage, but hits the higher amount more. Okay, our Ivory Tower is going to just cancel out the Meddling Mage, so we can just sit there and enjoy that. Impulse. I would describe the place we're in as being slightly bothersome. So I did have a version of this deck that had a Magma Mine, so you can just keep putting loads and loads of mana into it and eventually you dome your opponent when you're sort of protected. But not sure if that's where we need to be here. Meddling Mage does seem like a significant problem for us though. I'm going to draw some extra cards here. Alright, we're going to get in with the Xantid Swarm. This does show them that we have a spell to cast. We should be attacking every turn, although sometimes we might want to block with it because they do have Lightning Angels that we might want to stop from hurting us. Let's get this Howling Mine in. I guess we get a clean up and we'll discard a Black Vise. Maybe we're supposed to play the Black Vise on turn 1 before our opponent can play the Meddling Mage because it is our main way of winning the game. That's interesting. But I did mention that Meddling Mage is going to be horrible for us. It's a Lightning Angel. There's a big swing for 7 here. We are at least gaining some life off the tower. Found a land, that's helpful. Are we getting stuck into the chasm just yet, or are we going to try and have some counterspells? Try and get some counterspells out of our opponent's hand. Okay, I think we play out a Xantid Swarm here. And unfortunately, we are going to be discarding another Black Vise. Just another Angel. It's an Angel. I think this is a reasonable turn to use a Tangle. If they have counterspells, they may as well be using them on these effects. Alright, I'm going to save... I'm just going to save 6 life here. Let's gain a little bit from our... Okay, so we've got something going on here now. So we can go Exploration, play out our first land, play out our second land. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they might be able to kill us if they have a Lightning Bolt. But we get 2 attempts to counterspell what our opponent's doing. Maybe we're supposed to fire off the counterspell before our opponent does anything. Okay. So they're going to attack here. We can fire off the Moment's Peace. If they counter it, then we can fire off the Constant Mists. Alright. Say no to this. We need to be careful with our clock because our opponent needs to deck. That's how we win this game. Kind of need more Ivory Towers, ideally. I'll play on Exploration. Forest. And I will play out this Glacial Chasm now. We're going to Chasm I don't think we want to put any of these things back into our deck, so I'm just going to pass a turn here. Meddling Mage, sure, I hate it. They're going to name Ivory Tower. That's a pretty good name here. We've named the Ivory Tower. Yep. I did say that Meddling Mage would kill us, and here we are. Sure, you can keep making guys. Wish I could play this Ivory Tower. Sure, another Meddling Mage. They're going to name Constant Mist this time. Horn of Greed. Moment's Peace, okay. Horn of Greed is what we're trying to get going this turn. What's happening here? Icing down our mine, so we're not going to draw an extra card of it. Another Ivory Tower, you say? Okay. We've got 13 turns of this game left, roughly, maybe less, depending on how often our Howling Mines get tapped down. I guess actually it's probably just... Oh wow, they're just scooping it up. Alright, interesting. Like, we do have 2 Glacial Chasms. We can find more Glacial Chasms and we can... Guys bless it. But the fact we beat a blue Meddling Mage deck is pretty interesting because I thought we would be absolutely dead. Let's go to another round. Kind of doesn't have one of our engine cards, but for science, we're going to keep it. I think we actually lead off on the Ivory Tower. What we need in this game is enough time to set up. Wow, they've mulliganed to 5. That's kind of spooky. Set my Ivory Tower and gain 1 life next turn. So I'm not sure how we're going to fare against certain combo decks. Seafloor Debris. Okay. I'm going to play out this Tsabo's Web. Just try and get deeper in our deck. Exploration. Okay, that doesn't hurt us for later on. So this has to be a combo deck that they want a big burst of mana, so they can get 2 mana out of this land if they sacrifice it. Snow-covered forest. Let's try a Black Vise. Let's try another Black Vise. Let's try an Exploration. Let's try another Black Vise. This is what I'm doing, opponent. We're going to hit our opponent for 3 damage because they got 5 cards. Now, they could cast something like an Impulse, but that'll just replace itself anyway. We have nothing this turn, so... Reflecting Pool. So our opponent's clearly doing something more than just mono blue over there. Okay. We've got a win condition in play. Would love to have some sort of turbo action going. We've got the fog. We've got the win condition. We don't have the fuel for our deck. Exploration. Sure, I'll play that. Well, we could be just stocking up cards in hand, but we want to have a really good turn when our Horn of Greed arrives. Icing down a forest. You've got it, opponent. Phyrexian Furnace. Sure. That does have text against us. Because we have Moment's Peace and we have the Gaia's Blessing. Okay. We're just going to be sitting here staring at one another for a while, I think. That is what we signed up for today. I'll play a Tsabo's Web and get a little bit deeper into my deck. An Ivory Tower. Sure, let's have another one of those. Our opponent looks like they're blue-red, but they could be something else. They could be like the counterburn and they're going to fire a Prophetic Bolt at our face in a second. But the Reflecting Pool is kind of weird, as is the Seafloor Debris. These are unusual things to be having. Icing our land down, sure. Like, what is our mono green deck going to do? A Dust Bowl. Well, the Tsabo's Webs check this. Not that we care about this. This does blow up our Glacial Chasm, but we're not in the Glacial Chasm stage of the game yet. I'm going to hold this land now. We can start gaining life off of our Ivory Tower. We have enough mana to play a Horn of Greed and start going. Our opponent might have things like Fact or Fiction that they're reluctant to cast because they're going to get burnt down by the Triple Vise. A Naturalize. Okay, that's interesting. That covers us against some of the spooky things that our opponent could have in their deck. Like a Nevinyrral's Disc. I sometimes sees play in like the very slow red deck, so maybe it'll be in the very slow blue-red deck. We're almost at the point where our Ivory Tower is doing something, which is exciting for us. Constant Mists. Okay, we're going to be gaining 2 life a turn now. If our opponent's plan is to burn us for lethal, then this is a good way to avoid that. Just Prophetic Bolt. Decree of Justice. Okay, we are a white deck. I don't care about a little Decree of Justice here. We don't need to start fogging just yet. Sure, we can take 4. We're going to gain 2 back anyway. Sure. Now we're going to gain 4 back, so we're going to be blanking out the damage from these guys. Miscalculation being cycled. Sure. Applying one of their own soldier tokens, so they don't take damage from the Vice. Okay. We take 3, but we gain 4. So we're currently gaining 1 life a turn cycle. And our opponent's on 8 from like damage from their own lands and our Black Vices. Horn of Greed. This is a good one. Do we think it's going to resolve? Probably not. That gets a card out of our opponent's hand, which is annoying. Yep, we're going to take the damage, but we're going to gain it all back. Okay, we're just going to sit here, gaining life, doing nothing. Right, they're getting rid of our Horn of Greed out of our graveyard. That means we can't shuffle it back in with a Gaia's Blessing later. Yep, we take 3, but we gain 2, 4, 6. So I'm okay with that trade. I will play out a forest so that we don't have to go to discard. Sure, you can tap down my forest. Be my guest. A Grand Colosseum. This means they're not taking damage. A Naturalize. I guess you play out a land. So that Grand Colosseum won't untap, but they get it out of their hand, so not going to take damage. Alright, they're exiling cards from their own graveyard and drawing a card. Okay. Alright, we'll take another 3. And we are very much repeating the same pattern over and over. As our opponent tapping out for like a big decree. This might force our hand on something. Like if this is lethal, well then we have to... I guess we can try and get some counter magic out by firing off a bunch of fogs in our opponent's turn. So they're keeping up 2 mana, so they clearly have a counter spell. So 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's not lethal at all, so that's fine. We can attempt to fog it. Let's play another Black Vise. So we have the ability to Moment's Peace and flash it back. If they counterspell this, then we can flash it back before they get priority to do the Phyrexian Furnace. Alright, it just resolved. Yeah, and we lose it there, but that's okay. We have 2 fog effects in hand. And we can start doing Glacial Chasm stuff soon as well. A lot easier if we had the turbo side of our deck. We just sort of sat here. But if they ever go above the requisite number of cards, they're going to be in trouble. Do we think they have counterspell, or do we think they have mana leak or miscalculation? Let's try and cast this in their upkeep. We can pay for a mana leak or a miscalc. This is basically gain 14. Okay, are they going to crack this Phyrexian Furnace? No, we're just getting the buyback on that. Sure. A Horn of Greed. Hallelujah. Do we play around mana leak by playing out the land first? I don't think so. It's probably just going to be an actual factual counterspell. Alright, so we'll pass the turn. We have 41 life. That is a lot of life. I don't think we need to fog this turn. Now, we can gain 14, but we can gain more on another turn. And Naturalize. I will deploy a land and pass. This turn I'm more happy to Constant Mists because we get access to paying around any sort of tricks our opponent may have. Okay, and I've got a land. They will deck first. An Expiration. Okay to play an Expiration out. I'm just going to take this damage this turn. I think that's fine. Weird old game, this one. There is a possibility that I don't record a full 5 rounds of this deck today, because it is taking a while on this one. An Ivory Tower. I would like an Ivory Tower, please. We're going to be gaining many lives. Slice and Dice. They're cycling it, so they're going to kill all their little 1/1 soldiers. Or is it you may have it deal? Oh yes, you may, so they don't have to kill their guys. Okay, they've cracked their Phyrexian Arena. They're looking at their Phyrexian Furnace. They're looking for something. I'm going to cast this with buyback, I think. Alright. So we have 3 Ivory Towers. So that's 3, 6, 9 life a turn we're gaining. And we've just drawn another Constant Mists. Okay. I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a sicko and I am actually enjoying this quite a lot. Okay, let's discard this Naturalize, I think. I didn't even think about putting something like Library of Leng or Spellbook so we could have like loads of cards and gain loads of life off of the Ivory Tower, but I don't think that's worth doing. I'm going to cast this Constant Mists with no buyback. Our opponent might counterspell this just so they can get their cards down in their hand. But if they do that, that opens up us being able to cast something like a Howling Mine. Disenchant on one of my Ivory Towers. Sure. Damage is prevented. Do we need to do anything here? No. 44 to 6. We got 50 life between us, right? That's something. I'll take this hit this turn. Gives them a little bit of hope. Aha! Here we go. Am I going to play around Mana Leak? We haven't seen Mana Leak. I'm not going to play around it. Can I have a Howling Mine, please, opponent? This is going to be counterspell if they have a counterspell. Absorb. Okay, you got it. Back up to 9 life there. They're tapping down our forest. Interesting time to do that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They can make 8 more tokens here. That's fine. Oh, they're just slicing and dicing. I wonder what it is they're looking for. Because they are definitely decking first. I wonder if they have a second Dust Bowl or not. Like a 3-colour deck, can they really afford... They probably can afford 2 Dust Bowl. I don't think they can afford more than 2. So if they play another Dust Bowl at some point, then we're okay. Alright, we're gaining some life again. Something we like to do. I'm going to play out a land, and I'm going to fog our opponent just casting a Constant Mist without buyback. And then we're probably going to start the Glacial Chasm train. So we're going to gain less life this turn. Because we didn't buy it back. I think that's okay. So the first one, we're going to be gaining 2 life over the next turn cycle. And then it's going to be life. Then we're still going to be gaining life, actually. Because we're probably just not going to play whatever card we have. Fact or fiction. That's a lot of cards. So we could give them this and just give them the 3 cards that they're going to have. Or we could give them 2 fact or fictions. Because these are the ones we kind of want them to have, I think. Because these make them dig really deep and mill quicker. So I'm going to give them 2 fact or fictions and a reflecting pool, which is a very weird pile. They should take the 2 impulses. They did take 2 impulses. I guess we could have split them up because they're not going to cast them. What is this card they're looking for in their deck that they think is going to help them out of this spot? Presumably they're going to cast their other impulse. You got it. If they do find another Dust Bowl, they get 1 use of the Dust Bowl, but we have got 2 Glacial Chasm in hand and 1 more in our deck. So we found, what, 2 card draw effects in 34 cards. Disenchant on an Ivory Tower. Sure. Miscalculation. They are certainly ripping through their deck there. Plan their own guy, so they don't take any damage from our Black Vise. What is your plan here, opponent? I don't know what they could have. They're not going to have something like Flaring Pain in their main deck. Alright, there is the Dust Bowl. They have the 1-of Dust Bowl. Or sorry, the second Dust Bowl. This doesn't untap, so they get 1 use of it. Are they going to try and force through damage right now? It looks like they are. In which case, I will Constant Mists, sacrificing this Glacial Chasm as the buyback. There is a counterspell. So we're going to take some damage this turn. But we have another Glacial Chasm. They can't have a third Dust Bowl. Impulse, sure. Like, you've seen every card in your deck at this point. Howling Mine, please. It's another counterspell, sure. I will have another Glacial Chasm. Yep, we're a hater. We're running 4 times Glacial Chasm in our deck, and it makes me very happy. Oh dear. Alright, our opponent's got 5 cards in hand. Sorry, 5 cards in deck. They know what they all are because they've seen them with Impulse, and they've ordered them in whatever order they wanted. Is it random order or in any order? Yeah. So I'll pay 2 life. Pass, we'll just leave these in hand because this gives us more mana, more life off of our Ivory Tower. Slice and dice. Okay. They are really going to be decked soon. We basically get to see our opponent's entire deck as well this game. Impulse. You get to see your entire library. This is Demonic Tutor for 2 mana, instant speed. Crazy. So if they can't win this turn, or do something that's going to put them in a position where they can win this turn, then I don't know how they get out of this one. Green mana. Why is it green mana? They might just have clicked any old colour, and they're just using it for colours. Gaia's Blessing. So they have Gaia's Blessing. So they have 2 Gaia's Blessing, though. So targeted, disenchant, and absorb. Okay. Do they have a second Gaia's Blessing? That is an interesting question for us to ponder. Like, I still don't think this is good enough. A Gaia's Blessing of our very own. Okay. I would like to cast this. I would like to have Ivory Tower, and Howling Mine in the deck, please. They might have drawn one of the cards they shuffled in. They did not. Okay, I will deploy an Ivory Tower, please. Right, you can disenchant an Ivory Tower. But if you don't have a second Gaia's Blessing, what are you up to? They do have a second Gaia's Blessing. Okay, so this game ends because our opponent times out first now, which is not really what I wanted. Gaia's Blessing. Okay, so both just doing the same thing here. Cool. But we can stack enough card draw effects that they can't get through. The library's going to be emptied out. Alright, so this is 9 life, which is quite a lot, but I think we pay it. Oh, we could lose this game. That would be unfortunate. Bit rude, our opponent playing a 4-colour deck with 2 Dust Bowls. I think that's a little bit on the rude side. Right, there goes our Ivory Tower. We have to not pay for this one, I think, this time. A snow-covered forest. We don't have any Ivory Towers right now. So I think I'm actually going to play out 2 lands so that we can do more stuff if we find our Horn of Greed. We've got a couple of turns here. Our opponent will time out in this round, but we are probably going to lose this game. They might not even want to play a second game, to be fair. Like, we still have the Black Vise win condition. We just need to get our card draw effects going. Gaia's Blessing. So Impulse, Gaia's Blessing, and the Disenchant. Sure. So they're going to be able to cast a Disenchant every turn, possibly more than one. Snow-covered forest, that's not it, is it? How many explorations do we have? 2, 3. So we kind of want to keep all these, because these are all cantrips. So at some point they're going to draw their Phyrexian Furnace, and they're going to use that to get rid of our Gaia's Blessing. So we're both kind of doing the same nonsense here. The fact that we just couldn't find any of our draw effects until very late has certainly changed the way this game played out. Why are they running seafloor debris? Just so they can get one more token? It's kind of weird. I guess this on its own can cast a counterspell in a pinch. Furnace, counterspell, and Blessing. Sure, you got it. A moment's peace. That's useful. Potentially. Let's naturalize this Phyrexian Furnace. So we can't pay for the chasm next turn. They can strip all the chasms out of our deck as well. Impulse. So they've just got Demonic Tutor every turn. This is awkward. This is Phil Blackman style game for our opponent here, where they just get down to nothing and just have their loop going. Which is what I wanted to do. Play this up now and be mana efficient. So we know they've got a counterspell. I think it's just the one. I could probably go back and work out, but it doesn't really matter in terms of how we're going to play this game. Howling Mine, you say. That is one of the ones we want here. I think we have to play these out so we can flash back the Moment's Peace. I think we should have played the Moment's Peace first, actually. Before they got to draw some extra cards. Moment's Peace. Probably counterspell here. Absorb. Okay. We get priority. Actually, no, we don't get priority here. Oh, wait, we don't have enough mana to... Oh, we do have enough mana to flashback, yeah. Okay, so they got counterspell here, and then they win the game. Yep, our opponent's ultra greedy deck is going to get enough to get through. That was unfortunate for us. Okay, so sideboarding. We want Xantid Swarms. We want... Do we want chokes? Their mana base is kind of bad. I don't think we need the chokes. We didn't really see anything for these naturalizers to pick up on. I don't really like any of these other bits and pieces. We're not really big into doing Tangle stuff. We kind of need some graveyard hate. That's something we're learning right now. But we'll resubmit here. Like, we can win a game quickly. It is possible. I'll keep this. They're mulliganing, so our Black Vise does less work. Smart. I guess we're not even playing our Black Vise. Get Exploration down. Play a land. Play a Black Vise. So this is probably going to be casting an annul against us. So I'm going to play this Ivory Tower and see if it gets the annul out of our opponent's hand. Alright. Maybe they don't have anything and we'll try this Howling Mine. They did have an annul, sure. But we don't really have a way of playing through it here. But we can shuffle it back into our deck with this guy's Blessing at some point. Miscalculation. We could have paid if we'd have played our land out first. That's really unfortunate for us. We could have played that one differently. Right, we're going to leave this land in hand for a bit. Right, we're just passing. We're going to build up cards in hand so our Ivory Tower starts gaining us some life. Right, just draw a card, pass a turn. Really, we should have played around that miscalculation and played our land out. Could be one card deeper in our deck right now. Okay, we are in the doldrums of this game. Waiting for something to change. Are we going to see... Okay, we're just seeing a slice and dice. It's kind of wild they still have slice and dice in post-board. Maybe they are worried about Xantid Swarm. Up to 5 cards. They played a land, so that's not going to matter for anything here. Tsabo's Web. I'll play this around a miscalculation. It's an annul, sure. We are quite far ahead on clock. So at some point they're going to go for like a big decree. They probably do an Angel's Decree because it does more damage. But depending on if they're trying to hold up counterspells, they might just go for a little decree here. Alright, here we go. So they're going to make 4 guys. We are currently gaining 2 life a turn. So this is going to be hitting us for 2 a turn. But it's going to go up to 3 life a turn pretty soon. We know they have disenchants in their deck. Okay. Slice and dice. Please choose to deal 1 damage for creatures. They did not. Not a surprise. Disenchant on my Ivory Tower. That makes me sad. A moment's peace, you say. Oh, that's all we're going to be casting, I suppose. It's only 4 damage, but keeping our life intact is really helpful. Let's try it out. Alright, our opponent just lets it ride. I'll play this, and I will play an Exploration. And we'll pass. Just flash us back in their upkeep. They got just under 3 minutes to try and kill me. An Ivory Tower. This is almost certainly getting counterspelled. They have a Dust Bowl, so this is kind of awkward. I think it's okay, though. If that's what they're burning their Dust Bowl on. Alright, they're not burning their Dust Bowl on it just yet. Okay, so now we can try and draw a Tsabo's Web. Alright, and this is them spending mana on their turn, which means we can hopefully untap and do something. Alternatively, we do nothing. Not ideal. So the reason I played the Glacial Chasm last turn is I'm a little bit worried about our opponent being able to just make a bunch of guys end a turn and kill us. Maybe they can win the game still. This 1-of Dust Bowl in their 4-color deck is... Sorry, this 2-of Dust Bowl in their 4-color deck is coming in pretty clutch. Now, it's probably in there as a spell slot rather than a land spot, so it's not as greedy as it looks. It's just annoying from my perspective. Alright, there goes that. Xantid Swarm. How do you feel about this? I will... Do I want to take 4 life here? Glacial Chasm doesn't actually protect us, really, does it? Well, we take 4 life here, I guess. If they've got their second Decree of Justice, because they've got 2 Decree of Justice, 2 Dust Bolt. Those are like the main things we care about here. They're firing this and our life total. Okay. I guess we just never find our draw effects, and that's going to suck for us. Yeah, we're just dead here. We just can't find our draw effects. Yikes. If we'd have played around the miscalculation, we might have been okay, but we know they had a null and stuff as well. Okay, that is very upsetting. Let's go to round 3. Alright, we are into round 3, I think it is. I'm recording this way after I recorded the first 2 rounds, so my brain is catching up a little bit. We're going to keep this. We have a draw engine that we'll eventually get round to, and we've got a curve. We get to cast a colourless lightning bolt on turn 1, which is pretty cool. Okay, it's just a shock now, because they've mulliganed to 6. Let's deploy the Vice. Boom. I recorded a whole other league in Legacy between the last round you saw and this round. Skirk Prospector. And the league I recorded had the rack in. It was an absolutely sweet league as well. You should check it out. But yeah, so going from the rack to the Vice is a very different game feel. I think we play the Exploration and the Tsabo's Web this turn. Just start getting the hooks in. These Naturalizes, no good. But this is one of the matchups I really wanted to test this deck against. Like, how does it actually fare against an aggressive deck? So the reason we want to get the Exploration is so that we can try and snowball and drop a bunch of lands next turn. We shouldn't be taking huge chunks of damage this turn. Yeah, it's just going to be the 1. I could have sacrificed this to make the hasty guy, the War Chief. But they're just doing nothing, which is okay with me. They got one of their Naturalizers. Taking out the Exploration, sure. That's fine by me. Can we draw a land? Didn't draw a land. I kind of want to play this and get mana from it. And get a card from it straight away. But I think we are just priced into playing it now so that we can hold open our mana for things like Constant Mist in the future. What's the likelihood they have 2 Naturalizers? They shouldn't be keeping a hand with 2 Naturalizers. Alright. War Chief, we're going to take 3 this turn. We need to find a land. Just get this Horn of Greed going. A land and a Howling Mine are top 2 cards. Another Horn of Greed. Okay, here we go. Our opponent is profiting way more from these Horn of Greeds, but we'll get to a point where we're A-okay, because we're just going to be dumping a bunch of stuff into play and getting our Constant Mist on the go. Right, we'll yield to these triggers, because this could be a long one. Got another Naturalize. They have. They're taking out one of the Horn of Greeds. Sure, that's annoying, but at least we still have a Horn of Greed. A Goblin Lackey, this is going to have haste, so they're going to be able to put something big in, potentially a Siege Gang, but maybe they just put in a Matron. Pile Driver. Wowzers, trousers, that's a lot of damage. Okay, we're in the Constant Mist lock already. Now we have to keep playing this every turn. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus whatever they get off this Lackey. Hopefully isn't too scary. It's a Matron. What is this going to tutor for? Another Pile Driver? Or the Siege Gang to put in next turn? Siege Gang. Yeah, not hitting lands at all is not really where we need to be. Snow-covered forest. I'll take it. Howling Mine. I'll also take this. Alright, we're in it now. So they're not going to get a free Siege Gang Commander because our opponent's not going to have a Lackey trigger because they're not going to deal with combat damage. Alright, we've got our hooks in, but it's from quite a low life total. These 2 Naturalizers are absolutely stinking up the hand. Cast this with buyback. No damage for you, opponent. So they can use the Siege Gang Commander to shoot us, which is part of the problem of going this low. So they can play the Siege Gang and then start firing damage in. So we're going to need to find a Glacial Chasm and some Ivory Tower action pretty darn soon. This will be a good turn to draw land and Ivory Tower. Get ready to get some lands going. So they should just hardcast a Siege Gang. They can see what we're up to here. They can just start pointing things at us. Because this is combat damage. So the Siege Gang will just override it. If they play anything else, I think it's a mistake. I think that is a mistake. I think you need to get your Siege Gang down. so we both drew a bunch of Naturalizers, but theirs were really good and mine were really bad. Glacial Chasm. Didn't really want that just yet. Play Exploration. So we're gonna get off a Constant Mist this turn. So imagine if these two were just like anything else. If they were lands, that would be amazing. And we probably would have won this game by now. Right, our opponent's got a Richardam Port. It's not going to untap. And they would like to port our land down. In response, we are going to Constant Mists. Here is the Siege Gang Commander. A little bit spooky, but we at least have a prevention shield from this Constant Mists for this turn. And then I guess we're into the Glacial Chasm and hope for the best mode, which is not ideal. We need to find card draw and life gain here. Alright, it's over to us. Come on, deck. At least if we get absolutely smashed here, it'd be nice to have a quick game, because they've been long ones so far. A Glacial Chasm is not nothing. Okay. We are in trouble. So we need to have our opponent not play enough stuff out. So they need to play stuff out to keep their hand low. But they also need to make sure they have mana up so they can shoot us with the Siege Gang if we ever drop the Glacial Chasm. Which obviously we can't ever do because we are dead. 1, 2, 3. So they have 6 damage ready to go. We can't be dealt damage. So this won't trigger. Okay, I guess we're paying for our Chasm. Moment's Peace, Horn of Greed that we can't cast. Yeah, this is horrible. We have to play this one out. Otherwise we die for what our opponent has on board. They just have to do nothing, which is not great for us. Alright, the Black Vise doing a little bit of damage there. A Ringleader. Okay. Drawing a Matron. So I think the correct play for our opponent here is just to not do anything and just hold up mana for the Siege Gang at all points at all times. This gives us a window where we can let the Chasm potentially die soon. But we're going to need some help from the top of our deck, which has not been kind. But maybe our opponent will play more stuff out and not see the line of the Siege Gang. Seems very unlikely. Howling Mine. Okay, so our things are going to die next turn, aren't they? So is it better to get the Horn of Greed down for next turn? I think it is. Ugh. I think we are just dead here. Our opponent has the win if they see it. They could also just draw a Wasteland and that kills us too. But we are dead in our upkeep. Turned a bunch of guys sideways. Okay. We didn't draw a land, which obviously sucks. Let's play an Ivory Tower and sit in our little Ivory Tower. And hopefully our opponent just doesn't see that they have the win. Wasteland. Okay. That would have killed us a previous turn. A Mog Fanatic. You got it. Are you going to pin me with a Mog Fanatic for star points? A Matron. Okay. They declined to use the Matron's ability. That's Moment's Peace. Are they going to let us get away? Or are they just going to ping us now? Okay. We're kind of getting away with it. Why can't we draw the lands we need? Okay, I guess we pass. Like, opponent didn't see it last turn, so maybe they won't see it this turn. I feel like we're absolutely stealing this game, to be honest. But our opponent did say they were new to the format, so... A Ringleader, sure. Another Mog Fanatic. Another lethal threat in the Mog Fanatic. Okay. Yep. A Matron, I wonder if they decline just to try and keep out the Black Vise. We're doing the whole thing of having enough stuff in play that our opponent can't keep track of everything. Maybe that's how we're skating through this one. But we are very, very dead if our opponent sees it. This isn't even a lethal pile driver attack, but it puts us to 1. Yep, they saw the line. Alright, they missed it for a couple of turns, but we did end up getting bodied there. So, we have something for this. I have specifically put 3 Wall of Blossoms in my deck for when I don't think that the Naturalizers look good. But are Goblin decks running Sulfuric Vortex? I can't remember. I honestly don't think they are. So let's get these in and the Naturalizers out. Everything else does have some function here. Alright, let's go. Okay. This seems keepable, but we are relying on our deck to give us the things we want, but we have time here. So there's going to be a turn 1 Ivory Tower, and we're hopefully just going to sit in our little Ivory Tower for a while. Scope Prospector, not the scariest one. Horn of Greed. Okay, we're going to play out this and this. So next turn we can play the Horn of Greed and try and draw 2 cards. Means we're not getting any Ivory Tower life this turn. If our opponent takes a turn off to Naturalize, it is what it is. That port is kind of annoying, but I don't think it's right for our opponent to be porting at this stage of the game. I think they need to be applying pressure to try and get in underneath what we're doing. Our opponent agrees. I guess they could still sack a Scout Prospector to port us, but that doesn't feel great. Okay, let's play a Horn of Greed out. It is early to play a Chasm, but we need to get the card draw somehow. Ivory Tower, wish I could cast this one. We don't have any mana for it though. 3 mana. Matron? War Chief, sure. So we take 3, it's not so bad. We'll pay for our Glacial Chasm. Alright. This land replaces itself. This land also replaces itself. We get to play out this Ivory Tower, which doesn't look impressive right now, but it's going to get better soon. Yep, our opponent gets a Horn of Greed trigger themselves. Another threat. I think we take one more Glacial Chasm hit, and then we let it go. Because hopefully we'll draw into another draw engine, and we can start throwing out and then using these moments pieces to keep our opponent's creatures down. And we pay 4 life to this. As long as it's saving us more life than it's costing us, then it's worth keeping in play. Yeah, I'll take... Actually, I won't take this exploration. We want to keep our cards in hand, don't we? We do need another draw engine. A Siege Gang Commander. Not in love with that guy. Okay, I think we are letting the Chasm go now. Forest that replaces itself. Yes, please. A Black Vise. I think it's more important for our life total to be high. So we're not going to play cards out. It deals 1 damage. I don't think that's where we need to be just yet. We need to get our hooks in a little bit more. So they have 6 damage they can fire with a Siege Gang if they want to sack their board to it. Hailstorm was a card I was considering running in this deck, which might be pretty good. Which is a Pyroclasm for attacking creatures, basically. In green for some reason. I would like to Moments Piece, please. Are you going to start sacrificing stuff to go to my dome, or are you going to just deploy more stuff to the board? I think sacrificing things is probably where I would go here. And our opponent agrees. So they can get 4 damage in and put us to 10. So we might have to Glacial Chasm this turn, because our opponent can 6 us next turn, and that gets a little bit sketchy. Okay, let's float some mana and play a Chasm. Play this and draw a card. I guess we draw another card. Okay, we have another Horn of Greed. That's pretty important. And are we playing out a Black Vise? I don't think we are. I think we have to just try and gas up next turn with playing some lands out. Alright, we're getting something naturalized. Tranquil Domain. That's going to blow up both my explorations. That's fine. Like, they're obviously useful. And I don't like my opponent getting a 2-for-1 there. But this game isn't really about what value your cards get. Oh, Sharpshooter's pretty gross, isn't it? Matron. They have Scout Prospector as well, so they can ping so much damage at our face. I think we are in trouble. Oh, the Goblin Sharpshooter coming in is really good for us. Not really good, but it's good enough. Pay 2 life for this. Land. It is a land. Alright, I'll play this and we will draw 2 cards. A Gaia's Blessing. I will shuffle in a Glacial Chasm and a Forest and an Exploration. And this card will replace itself. An Ivory Tower. So at the moment, we're going to be gaining a little bit from this Ivory Tower. So I think if we play this one out, we gain no life. We gain more life on the following turn, but we can just play it on the following turn. So it's correct just to hold this in hand. We're going to go to 4, but then we're going to gain 2. So we're actually going to go to 6. And then hopefully we can play this Ivory Tower out and start outpacing our Glacial Chasm. Then by the time we set up for the next one, we can start ballooning our life like you saw in the previous round. Don't want to see a Meltdown. I don't think our opponent plays Meltdown though. You have many, many, many goblins. So what all these goblins mean is that they can sack so many to ping us by using the Scout Prospector that we can't ever allow our Glacial Chasm shields to go down. It is not looking great for our Turbofog hero here. Naturalize on the Horn of Greed, sure. That is frustrating. I really wanted that one. Gain the life off of the Ivory Towers first. Would have been a good turn to draw a Horn of Greed, but here we are. I will play a land. Constant Mists. So I play out this Ivory Tower this turn. We're going to gain 3 life next turn. I could draw an extra card here, but then we won't gain any life. And this is going away next turn anyway. We need to gain the life. Always tough. TGN Commander is all. Maybe we need Cursed Totem in this deck. That would certainly solve a lot of the problems over the other side of the board right now. Because we could just rely on our fogs and then we'd be okay. But the fact we have to be just sat here on Glacial Chasm duty right now. Another War Chief, sure. Right, put this on the bottom. We gain some life. And then we pay 6 life. Yikes, that's so much life. An Ivory Tower though. I guess we play this Chasm. And we get rid of the old Chasm. And play an Ivory Tower. I could draw some more cards with this Horn of Greed, but I don't think that's what we need to do right now. We need to max our hand out. Our opponent's done a good job of keeping our stuff down. They played a land that wasn't a wasteland. That is a great sign for us. I think if we had Cursed Totems, we win this matchup quite easily. So we are learning with what we need in our sideboard. I'd much rather have the Cursed Totems than the walls that we've boarded in. Obviously we haven't drawn the walls either, so, you know, whatever. But it's on the bottom. Enjoy some Ivory Tower life. Play a land out, another expiration. So we can play a land out. It's not really getting us where we need to be. So we're going to gain 6 life. So we're going up on life whilst our Chasm ticks down. We have 2 Chasms left in our deck because we shuffled 1 in. We are very, very dead to Wasteland. Not a Wasteland. Beautiful. They are cracking with their Wooded Foothills. They know that if they find a Wasteland, they can get us. They're just trying to thin down. A Goblin Lackey, you got it. I think our opponent wins this game, but we've learned something, which I will take. So we will pay for this. Okay, I will play the Tsabo's Web first in case we find another Horn of Greed and we get to draw more cards. This will keep their Rishtan Ports tapped down if they ever use them. Alright, so now we have this going. We can, if we go to our next turn, we gain 3, 6, 9, 12 life. That is quite a lot of life to work with. And then the turn after, we can start playing some more stuff. So we are gaining life every turn at the moment. That's a wasteland. That's us very dead looking. I'm going to cast this with buyback, sacrificing the land they've targeted here. I believe our opponent handily kills us though, because we don't have Cursed Totem in our deck. Right, we are very much F6 here, so our opponent should be able to finish us off here because they can sack a bunch of stuff to the Scout Prospector. And they also get all these little pings in. I'm not going to make my opponent click through this. Unfortunately, we did not manage to take this game down. But we did learn something, so that's pretty cool. Let's go to round 4. Okay. I like this opening quite a bit. There we go. Exploration on turn 1. So we have 2 land drops. Hopefully, we can get some Howling Mine action going. Alright, here we are. It's our opponent's turn. What are they playing? A Shivan Reef. Okay. I will play this out, and I will deploy a Howling Mine. You are welcome, opponent. We have a Howling Mine. Our opponent might be a pretty burn-heavy deck, or we could be looking at like another solution-style deck with my enemy, Meddling Mage. Fairy Conclave. So looking more like blue-red, so this could be counterburn. They're already in the stage where they're... Alright, they're just Chain of Vaporing our thing. I will not sacrifice a land. Sure. Let's have another one. Or the same one, in fact. They didn't want to go to cleanup. I think that's why they did that. Let's play an Ivory Tower. And it's over to them. Can start nipping him with a Fairy Conclave if they want to, but then they're going to end up going to discard. They probably just want to deploy things. We might just get a flurry of burn spells at our face. Just be like an Incinerate to the face or something. Accumulated knowledge, interesting. We don't get anything with our Ivory Tower just yet. Tsabo's Web. That is going to be a really important card to resolve here. I'm going to play this Ivory Tower out. We need to wiggle our way to a spot where the Tsabo's Web is good. We need our opponent to tap down so they don't have counter magic up. So hopefully giving them all these cards, they're going to be like, might as well just burn you. What's the worst that can happen? And then boom, Tsabo's Web happens. Because that's going to stop their man lands. Oh, they have so many man lands. Yes, yes. No, Parallax Tide is horrible for us though. My most hated card in the format I don't even think should be legal in the format, if I'm being perfectly honest. I dislike the play patterns of this card. It invalidates a lot of decks as well, because you can't play any sort of slow control-y deck that doesn't have counter magic in, or can't play like a million red blasts. Anyway, a little rant over and done with. Maybe we'll draw 2 lands and we just drop Tsabo's Web. That would be beautiful. I believe in you, deck. Oh, I don't believe in you anymore. No belief over here. We're not going to draw any lands, are we? There's no point playing 1 land out when our opponent's got a Tide over there. We'll just keep these cards in hand. At least our Ivory Tower is going to do some stuff. So this is red-blue Tide. Because the problem with Tide is you can't actually interact with it. Because if you blow it up, then it doesn't matter, because if they're doing the combo where they remove all the counters, then it's just going to get you anyway, because they remove all the counters, then they blow it up themselves or bounce it, and then all your lands leave permanently because of the way it's worded. It's just a bit troublesome. If this was worded like the sort of modern templating of cards that look like this, then I think it would be fine. It'd still be very good, but it would be fine. Okay. We could deploy a Tsabo's Web, but our opponent sat there with an obvious selection of counter magic available to them. Alright, I'm going to play this out. I don't even know if I play out the other land. I will play out the other land. Maybe we can force a fight over like a Moment's Peace style card. At present, our opponent will deck first, which is something we have to mention early and often. So what their plan is probably is to stifle this Parallax Tide. This is going to be an accumulated knowledge. It is. Okay, so they're going up to many, many cards. Alright, so they're clearly going to stifle this. No? Oh, okay, they're just waiting for this trigger, yeah. And then this is the one you have to stifle. Oh, we just got all our lands back. That's a bit of a surprise. I thought for sure that was getting stifled. Strange. Well, I'll take it. Please, like, do something with your mana so I can play a Tsabo's Web. A Phyrexian Dreadnought, you say? Sure. And they're stifling the Phyrexian Dreadnought there. Sure. So they stifle the trigger, so they're just left with a 12/12. Yes, please tap more things. I don't know if they have enough islands to be running foil in their deck. Parallax Tide. Another one. Are they going to take all of our lands? They've left us with 2 lands. Interesting. We do get to try this Tsabo's Web. Although he's going to remove it at the end step, just to give me that little shred of hope and then rip it away from us. Ivory Tower. Give me the life. This is going to mean that we're going to take 3 hits to die to Dreadnought. But they can obviously supplement it with other guys, but we're hoping that the Tsabo's Web is going to keep them locked down. If they do remove our last 2 lands, we have to draw a land to get the Tsabo's Web in. Okay, we made it to the part of the game where things might go well for us. Tsabo's Web, please. Beautiful stuff. Take that, all of your lands. And I'm going to play a Black Vise, and here is my win condition. Boom. Things have turned around. Are we secretly good against blue decks? Is that a thing? Alright, so the Black Vise is going to start digging in our opponent, and then we're just going to be casting lots of fog effects. Sure, you can hit me for 12. Got more life where that came from. Oh, we've really jammed our opponent's mana base up there. Absolutely love seeing that. I don't necessarily want to cast any spells, because I don't want to give our opponent targets for their Force of Wills and things. Not Force of Wills, their mana leaks and counter spells. Sorry, just been playing a lot of Legacy, unsurprisingly. Alright, Howling Mine. And we have a forest here. Do we just want to hold up double Moment's Peace? I think that's fine. Impulse. They can they fail to find? I don't know if they can fail to find or an impulse. Alright, Black Vise doing its thing. Are they going to stifle this? Looks like they are. Alright, I'm going to fog whilst our opponent only has 1 mana up. So the Dreadnought doesn't do anything. I found another land though. This could enable things like Gush, which isn't really a card they want to cast against a Black Vise. Give me my Ivory Towers. Alright, we have a Tangle. That's 2 fogs. We have another Black Vise. Would I like to play this Black Vise out, or would I like to play this Ivory Tower out? Which one is better? I think I want the tower down here. I think our opponent's going to counterspell this, and then we're going to Tangle their guy. Well, no, we're just in with that, aren't we? Interesting. We could Constant Mist if they mess with our lands at all. But we seem to be in a pretty good spot here. Blue-red Dreadnought. Let's see if we can get this tapped. Let's Tangle you up. If you counterspell this, then I get my second Black Vise in. A Force Spike. Ah, that's sad. Alright, we go to 12. But we're going to go up and gain 6 life. So that's half of a Dreadnought hit. And we can deploy a Black Vise. I don't think our opponent's deck can afford to have Wastelands in. Ooh, a Glacial Chasm, you say. Let's go for an Ivory Tower. They've got the Dust Bowl. I don't know how many Dust Bowls they're running, though. Here is the Black Vise. Do I just play this Chasm out now? I don't think so. I think I'm okay taking 1 hit from this. Another Impulse, sure. So we're gaining 8 life a turn. Our opponent is losing 6 life a turn. So they are dead next turn. Maybe we are supposed to play the Chasm out just so nothing weird happens. Because they'd have to have double Lightning Bolt here to kill us. Are they running Lightning Bolts? Why would you be running red if not for Lightning Bolt? Am I going to get double Lightning Bolted here? No, they would have done it before cleanup if they had it. Alright. Let's gain a lot of life. Nice little Howling Mine for us. And a Horn of Greed. What do we want to do with our resources here? We could just play a Glacial Chasm. Our opponent's dead to the Black Vise anyway. We don't give them an opportunity to counterspell anything. And then next turn, we gain 3, 6, 9, 12. So we gain a Phyrexian Dreadnought's worth of life every turn. Chain of Vapor on the Black Vise. I may sacrifice a land. It's tempting. It is tempting to sacrifice a land and bounce this Dreadnought. But then they get to bounce something else of ours. No. We're going to clean up. I think Gaea's Blessing can go here. Alright. The other Black Vise is continuing to do its thing. Mishra's Factory, they get 1 use of that. They're going to Parallax Tide away my Glacial Chasm. A Powder Keg, you say. That can blow up a bunch of our things. But not before this Black Vise kills them. Wouldn't mind some basic forests, please, opponent. Opponent deck, even. Feels like my deck is my opponent sometimes. Alright, we're going to gain a metric ton of life here. Our opponent's going to be annoyed by it, which is good. Right, I will deploy a forest. Now what are we doing? Are we playing out another Black Vise? I think we are. If they pop this on 1, they blow up this, 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 and this. Is that worth... Is it worth trying to get over the finish line right now? We have 8 cards in hand. We'll give it a go. Forced Spike. I will pay. We're in no danger of dying to a Dreadnought here. Okay, they were just doing that to get cards out of their hand. That's fine. We've got more Black Vises in our deck, and our opponent will deck first. We have some Naturalizes. That's a card I wouldn't mind having access to. They don't take anything from the Black Vise. They're going to strip away all of our Ivory Towers. We can get our other guy's Blessing. We can shuffle this guy's Blessing and the Black Vise in. This is going to blow up their Dreadnought. We're not going to pay for the upkeep of this. They have no threats in play. Let's get Horn of Greed in. We're doing this in a way that we can play the land and gain a card off of it. And if they spend a counterspell on this, sure. There's a counterspell that later on won't be doing anything. Let's get another Expiration in. Keep drawing them cards. Let's get a Howling Mine in. So our opponent's basically just holding up counterspell for specifically Black Vise at this point. Fact or fiction? Okay, we separate the Tide and we separate these. Is it 2 lands and Tide? So kind of struggling with mana. I think we separate like this though. We don't give them 2 lands and the Tide. What do they take? They take the land and the 2 1-drops. Sure. You bouncing something? The Tsabo's Web. Sure. That's pretty good. They get a nice untap here. But they basically don't have red spells left because the Shivan Reef dealing them damage is going to be pretty scary. A Dreadnought, you say? Sure. Stifle, you say? Okay. Let's draw some extra cards. Alright, let's replace some of the cards we have with new cards. I would like to naturalize this card. How do you feel about that, opponent? A counterspell, sure. I would like to Tsabo's Web, please. A mana leak. I'll pay. You got another spell you want to send into this? Impulse, you got it. They can't tap these Shivan Reefs for mana though. It's taking pain off of this. Not good for them. I don't think they should have counterspelled the Naturalize. They knew we had the Tsabo's Web. I think locking out their mana is scarier for them than losing their Dreadnought. Alright, Tsabo's web is in. How much trouble are you in, opponent? Right, I can play a forest. Draws us a card with a Horn of Greed. And we can play this Black Vise out. It will deal our opponent 1 damage. We do not believe they have a counterspell. They might have a Chain of Vapor. Accumulated Knowledge. That is a pretty sketchy one there. That is lights out. And we managed to get the match. We've got more than double the time on our clock left than our opponent. So, okay. What do we have going on here? Another Naturalize is certainly useful. I don't hate that. The Xantid Swarm seem essential. I think we can chill on a Tangle. Probably trim on a couple of these. That gets us 4 of the Xantid Swarms in. I don't think they have enough islands for the choke to be good. How much life do we realistically need? Maybe we trim that. And if we want this Naturalize, which I think we do, how are we fitting it in? Maybe an Expiration comes out. Let's try this. We're on the draw. So we could find some land. We do have like the best card in our deck in this matchup, I think. So I think we'll keep this one. We find a land in the first 2 turns, then we're okay. And then we can start Howling Mine and do that sort of stuff. Although we do need to be a little bit wary of Force Spike. So I think I'm going to play this Expiration as bait. Force Spike it. Annul, sure. The bait was successful. It wasn't the spell I was expecting, but the bait was successful. Now it's Counterspell mana, which is less ideal. Cast an Ivory Tower. Is this something that interests your opponent? A Force Spike. Sure, I will pay the 1 for this. That's a fine exchange of resources. Sure, you can Force Spike it. We have got 2 Force Spikes out with 1 card. I will take that. And now we can play the things we actually care about, like the Xantid Swarm. Mishra's Factory, sure. Let's play the Xantid Swarm. Can you counterspell this? An Impulse, sure. Are they going to be running more than 2 Force Spikes? Surely not. I don't think we need to risk it though. We can just pass and then get our Xantid Swarm doing its thing. If they activate the factory, I'm kind of down to blow it up maybe. We'll see. A Powder Keg, sure. Am I blowing this up now into a potential Force Spike? I don't think we need to, do we? We attack with the Xantid Swarm. Get our little trigger. Do I want to blow this up and play a Xantid Swarm or just get Howling Mine going? Or we could get the Horn of Greed going. I'm going to get the Horn of Greed going. If our opponent wants to blow up the Xantid Swarm, we can just replace it. Alright, so they get a card off of the Horn of Greed. They have 5 minutes to win 2 games. I think we win this one on timeout, which isn't really what we want. But we're playing Turbofog. We've got to take the wins we can get them. And we are learning how to improve this deck quite a lot from this league, I think. Right, coming in with a Factory. And the Conclave. This feels very risky when they know that we're running Tsabo's Web. They're going to pop the keg or they're going to let us have our Xantid Swarm. I would have loved access to a land or something here. So we could play Howling Mine and the Powder Keg. I think we're just going to pass here. With the intention of fogging our opponent's turn. Are you going up to 2 or are you leaving this at 1? Leaving it at 1, sure. We just get in with the boys? Or are we being a big meanie? We are being a big meanie. Okay. Right, let's try and naturalize this. They have a Stifle, they still get 3 of our lands. Misdirection. Yeah, that's pretty disgusting. They blow up our Horn of Greed instead. Okay. Guess we're passing. Let's just hope they don't have a Stifle. Right, we're going to lose our Xantid Swarm. This means they're probably ready to play a Phyrexian Dreadnought. There it is. And they have lethal next turn. Yep, in comes the Factory. Howling Mine. That doesn't do it. This needs a land to sacrifice. Our opponent's been taking absolute ages to play their deck, so we're going to make them go to time here and get the win. Not really how I want to play, but if our opponent's playing the most miserable card in the format, then we can afford to be a bit cruel to them. So this is 14 damages. And we go to game 3. Alright, they said sorry they need to go. We'll take that as a win because they're going to time out before they can kill us. Our opponent hasn't actually left the match yet, so we'll see what happens here. I think they might have just left the computer and it's just going to time out. Alright, we ended up winning the match because they timed out. Alright, we're into the last round of this somewhat long league. Let's keep this hand. We can Black Vise into Howling Mine and just get the party going straight away. We've got a Fog Effect. We've got a Gaia's Blessing, which isn't great, but it's mostly just going to be a redraw. But it is part of some of our way of winning the game if it comes to it. Let's get Black Vise down. Alright, the Colourless Lightning Bolts. Mishra's Factory. The Rack. The Rack versus Black Vise. I think the Black Vise wins that one. This is a classic battle, but my deck is full of lots of things that make us draw cards. So I imagine our opponent's going to have a rough time here. I'm not sure how useful our fog effects are going to be. So the Black Vise has dealt 5 damage already. Not bad. Another Rack. Okay. We can get dressed here? No. I don't want to yield to these in case there's some weird shenanigans we can pull at some point. Alright, I will draw from this Howling Mine. I will deploy a land. I will pass a turn. We can blow up racks if we need to. Is this going to be a Funeral Charm or something? It is a Funeral Charm. I will discard a Moment's Peace. Black Vise doing more damage. I don't know if I want to just start taking out these racks, because if the rack's going to be doing work against us, then we're going to be in trouble. Another factory. So they can animate the factory and crack in for 3 if they wanted to. They're just passing. Right, the racks will just take the damage, which is 0. And then we will get Howling Mine going. A land here would be nice. Not a land. It's another Howling Mine. Sure, let's take the guaranteed cards of the Howling Mine this turn. Funeral Charm. Okay, I guess we will discard this Guy's Blessing. We still have another Guy's Blessing which we can use to shuffle this one in later on. I suspect this game is not going to come down to Guy's Blessing. Our opponent's going to have things like Hypnotic Spectre. I don't know if they're going to have additional creatures like, you know, Carnophages or Skittering Scourges or whatever. Remains to be seen. But this is a very fitting final game. The Rack versus Black Vise. Duress. Okay, are you going to take the Horn of Greed probably? No, you took the Naturalize. Interesting. Duress. Okay, now they're going to take the Horn of Greed. I get you. I think I would, if they only had one, I would probably take the Horn of Greed rather than Naturalize. But we're going to take actual damage from the Rack now. And the factory's coming in. So they're going to get on board with doing some damage. But we are drawing 2 additional cards every turn. Now our opponent's probably drawing like an additional discard spell every turn. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out in the long run. Oh, Ivory Tower though. Alright, let's get an Ivory Tower in. And a Black Vise. Do I want to play this forest out? I don't think so. We just hold it. Alright. So, a little bit more damage off our Black Vises. It's going to be a weird one. So if we play this land out, we could have cast a Moment's Peace, which might have been smarter, but then we're going to take more damage from the Rack anyway. With this Hypnotic Spectre. Okay. And the Rack, sure. You got a Duress to follow that up with? Sure. We'll always yield to the Ivory Tower though. We don't get any life off of that one. Draw some cards here. Alright, let's get another Howling Mine down. This feels like it should be a pretty good matchup. Right, so they're drawing up to, what, 9 cards here? And then they're going to go up to 10 in their draw step here. No, sorry, they went up to 9 from the draw step in the Howling Mines, yeah. Okay. The Rack. Okay. 4 racks. I will protect ourselves from this. It saves us a lot of damage. Wonder how much use we're actually going to get out of Ivory Towers in this matchup. We'll leave our Graveyard popped out so it stops pinging backwards and forwards, just so we know that we've got 2 Moment's Peace we can rely upon. It's another Spectre. Something like a Cursed Scroll would be pretty good here. They should be casting something though, right? Oh, sorry, they weren't in their main phase, that's why they weren't casting something. Skittering Scourge. You got it. We are in the fog zone. It's going to be a Spectre. No, that would make sense. Chain of Smog targeting me. I will discard these 2 cards. I will not copy it. Funeral Charm. Oh, that's pretty good. Actually, losing our Glacial Chasm like that. 3, 6, 9, 12. That's a lot. We need to find a Chasm pretty sharpish here. I thought we'd have been fine here. Yeah, we should have just played the Chasm last turn. Right, so this cantrips, so we want this. Ivory Tower doesn't do anything right now. If I play a land out, I think we have to play a land out and try and flash back a Moment's Peace. Maybe that's wrong. How much discard is going to come our way. Yeah, if we just play out the Glacial Chasm though, I don't think we necessarily can lose this one. Because the Rack deals damage. So if they play creatures out here, we just cast this with flashback over here. So if our opponent casts creatures, they lose the Skittering Scourge, but I don't think they care. They just want to get stuff out of their hand. Don't make me discard any cards, please. In your deck built to make me discard cards. Maybe we're about to lose this one. A Skittering Scourge is just to get a card out of their hand. Okay. Please don't cast any discard. Just let me have a turn. Skittering Scourge, okay. And this is our turn to find what we need. So we don't take any damage from the rack this turn, which is huge. We draw 1,000,000 cards off of our Howling Mine. Nope. Nope. Glacial Chasm. That is one of the ones I want here. So what is the plan? Do I think our opponent has Wastelands? Potentially. I think I want to cast an Ivory Tower. And I want to play this Glacial Chasm out. Because this protects us from the rack. And then we still got a Moment's Peace over there. So we get to deal our opponent what? Is it 2 this time? It's going to be close. So they can make us discard cards so we don't gain any life off our Ivory Tower. So it's going to be a weird back and forward. Dust Bowl, very good here. But if they spend all their mana to blow up our Glacial Chasm, that's not the end of the world. We probably just constant missed sacrificing the Glacial Chasm. Although that might open us up to Cabal Therapy on constant mists. But if they're going to sacrifice our, if they're going to blow up our land anyway, we may as well get the value of this. Okay, I have a response. We'll sacrifice this and get our constant mist buyback. So they only get 1 activation of the Dust Bowl, which is why they sacrifice it to itself, because we have the Tsabo's Web in play. So this card comes back to our hand, so we're still the same on number of cards in hand. Just don't have any more discard. They've gone through a lot of discards, to be fair. Triple Funeral Charm. Alright, so they can't get the cards out of their hand. They're going to die to the Black Vise. That was really tight. That was an interesting one. What do we like here? I like the Naturalize. I would like one of those in the deck. What doesn't look so hot? The Tsabo's Webs seem fine. Everything else is also fine. Maybe it's one of the Ivory Towers. Just to get this Naturalize in. Tranquil Domain might work on some of the things they have. For example, they could be running Bottomless Pit, and that might be a thing we want to blow up with Tranquil Domain. Naturalize covers that whilst also covering the rack, though. Well, we definitely want the things that draw us cards, so I guess we keep this. But our opponent's probably going to be pretty aggressively looking for early disruption on our card draw engines. We also can't really mulligan into a rack deck. That doesn't seem like a great idea. There is a rack. It seems so innocent to begin with, doesn't it? Okay, here is our snow-covered forest. Yes, there it is. Is it the Horn of Greed or the Howling Mine? Probably the Howling Mine, because that's just guaranteed card draw. I wonder if our opponent's boarded in anything like Dystopia. I don't think that's going to be great against us, but you never know. Snow-covered forest. I would like to put this back into our deck, please, and draw a card. A Moment's Peace. If our opponent plays someone like a Hypnotic Spectre, we're going to be in a bit of a weird situation where we kind of have to hold up. Oh, it's a Plague Spitter. Because this deals us damage every upkeep. Interesting. But it also deals them damage every upkeep. Alright, we just want to get this down while we can. Before it gets taken out of our hand. And then we're going to start filling our greedy beak with delicious cards. I love the art on this creature. It's so good. Just a little guy. Alright. We're going to take 2 here. No attack with the Mishra's Factory probably means they're lining up another creature like a Hypnotic Spectre. I'm curious why you play this out before the Spectre though. They can't play out another Plague Spitter because they kill each other. Yep, you can get a Wasteland in play. That makes our Glacial Chasm line a lot worse. But if they tap this, we might be able to nab it with a Tsabo's Web at some point. There is the hippie. Okay, I will play out this land and draw a card. Expiration, no good to us right now. We're just going to Moment's Peace our opponent's attack step. So they are ahead on this Plague Spitter race. But we have some Ivory Towers that we can find. Here comes a fog. Right, they're playing a land, so they're going to replace their card in their hand. A Duress. My hand is pretty Duress-proof. I've got 2 expirations. The problem is just the number of cards we're keeping in our hand, rather than what they are. This is why we didn't play the expiration out. We just want to keep cards in hand, so we're not getting bodied by the rack too hard. Okay, so we're going to lose the other expiration. That is what it is. So I think we're incentivized to play out the Glacial Chasm here. It forces our opponent to interact, and it replaces itself anyway and might dig us into something a bit more useful. Oh, a Black Vise though. That's good. Not doing the work right now, but it's part of the plan, isn't it? I'll sacrifice this tapped forest. We got a Funeral Charm coming our way? We do. I will lose this Moment's Peace, please. And I'll sacrifice this forest. Another Black Vise. We're not about doing anything with that just yet. We need to flash back this Moment's Peace. Yep, we knew this was going to happen. But it gave us a redraw and got rid of our opponent's wasteland, so the next wasteland does work. Our opponent has very few cards in hand, so this Black Vise is going to take some work to pop off. Mishra's Factory, that cantrips, not bad. Activating a factory, they've activated the wrong one here. If you right click on Magic Online, it tells you which one is newly controlled. We'll get these committed to attack, and then we will flash back this Motor's Piece. Got one card in hand. I wonder what it is. Alright, we're going to take 1 damage off of this little rack. The Horn of Greed. Okay. This is something. And we're drawing some cards here. An Ivory Tower. I do like an Ivory Tower to sit in. Oh, we can't play it because we haven't got an expiration this time around. Next turn, though. So there is a clock on this game, but it can be changed via the Glacial Chasm going away. The Plague Spitter is clocking our opponent, though. That is a Mishra's Factory. That's good for us. That means it's not going to be a wasteland. The rack. You got it. We get in Chain of Smogged. We are. Okay, so I think we have to discard the tower and the vice and keep the land, because the land is the thing that gets us more cards. Okay, so we take some damage from our Glacial Chasm. Horn of Greed, you say? We'll keep playing them. Really wish I'd played out one of those explorations earlier now. I didn't want to take too much damage in the early game until it was set up, but now just having it would make a huge difference here. Yep, our opponent gets to draw 3 cards. Ancestral Recall just for playing a swamp. Not bad. And a copy of the rack. Yep, we are very dead to wastelands. Understood. Bottomless Pit. Sure. We're going to lose one of these. They got another one. A Funeral Charm. So we're not going to have any cards in hand. Okay. Could do with drawing a land. Yep, they're stacking it as the bottomless pit goes. Resolves first, which is correct. Obviously it doesn't matter for this turn, but just in general it's a good practice to have. Land? Not a land. But it is a card that we might be able to leverage. The bottomless pit is kind of antithetical to what we're trying to do anyway. Like, we're pretty much dead to these racks anyway. I'm just going to fire off this bottomless pit, get rid of that, and see if our opponent can not draw a wasteland. Like, we're shields down here, so we just F6 for his turn and hope for the best. Swamp. That's not a wasteland, so we're still in it. We're going to go to 2 this turn, though. So things are getting a little bit dicey. We need to find another Glacial Chasm. And our main draw engine doesn't allow us to play additional lands. Playing a Void. Interesting. Right, let's draw a bunch of cards, please. Howling Mine. That is very much in the wheelhouse of things I want to be doing. I think we are supposed to Gaia's Blessing first, though. What would I like back in my deck? An Ivory Tower, please. An Exploration and a Glacial Chasm, I guess. Yeah, so that card gets exiled, but that's okay. So, because the rack will go after our triggers, it means that our opponent won't get to hurt us with the rack the turn that we sacrifice this. But if they find a wasteland here, we just die. Duress. So we're going to lose the Horn of Greed, I suspect. No, we lost the Constant Mists. Sure. And that gets exiled because of the Plane of Void. Alright, we're going to say goodbye to our Glacial Chasm. We are in a spot of bother. We did find a Glacial Chasm though, which is quite funny. I would like to play this Howling Mine. Is it better to play the Howling Mine or is it better to play the... The Howling Mine is guaranteed draws every turn, I think. So let's get this going. Get the Chasm in. For a bunch of cards. Discard this. Okay, so we're above the rack. If we can get another turn and draw a whole load more cards, we'll be okay. And the Black Vise is going to start ticking soon. Although we do have to worry about this Plague Spitter, as amusing as that is. Just need to get all of our pieces together. Alright, our opponent played a non-wasteland, so that's beautiful. Dark Ritual, this is just to help them get everything out of their hand. Another Dark Ritual. Cursed Scroll. Yeah, that's pretty good. Can they get enough cards out of their hand that they can just name a random thing and hit with the Cursed Scroll? It's certainly possible. These games have been really good against this deck. It's really interesting and intricate how it all pans out. Chain of Smog. Okay. Guess we get rid of those 2. And we have no agency for the rest of this turn. Only 3 cards in our opponent's hand. This Cursed Scroll is quite likely to kill us. We can pay to keep the Glacial Chasm alive, but it will end up in us being dead. So I'm probably not going to pay. So we don't take anything from the rack because of the way the triggers stack. We need like something like Seeds of Innocence. Well, actually, Seeds of Innocence would hurt us as well. No. Now's your chance. Your 1 in 3 chance to kill me with your Cursed Scroll. Come on, Howling Mine. Help me out. Okay. We can't afford to play the Horn of Greed here. So we just have to play a land and draw a bunch of cards with it. Ivory Tower. I'm a big fan of having Ivory Tower here. How bad is the Cursed Scroll for us? I don't think we can beat the Cursed Scroll if they get lucky with it. We play the Ivory Tower out. And then we have to fog our opponent's next turn. And go to 1 life. So they're going to have a swing with the Cursed Scroll right now. No, they didn't have a swing with it. That's interesting. So Plague Spitter will kill me next turn. But the Ivory Tower should hopefully get us over that hump. Dust Bowl. That is useful for future Glacial Chasms. How many cards am I losing from my hand this turn? Right, let's have a little bit of fog action. Funeral Charm. Targeting themselves? Oh, sorry, they're targeting the Plague Spitter. So when it dies, it pops. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we do need this Ivory Tower in. What do we not need in that case? Maybe we can take out Tangle. Do I want any Tranquil Domains in to handle our opponent's things like the Bottomless Pit? We've seen Bottomless Pit, but it's just the Bottomless Pit. Now, the Bottomless Pit is irritating. Maybe we can afford to lose, like, an Expiration for 1 Tranquil Domain, since, you know, they step on each other's toes a little bit anyway. Alright. I don't know if it's better to be on the play or the draw. Hopefully it means it's easier for us to get the stuff out of our hand that needs to get into play. Okay, we'll keep this one. We are going to be spending a lot of our resources on turn 1, though. So here goes the Expiration, which I think was a missing piece of our puzzle last game. And we have the Ivory Tower. Now, opponent, don't discard my Howling Mine. If they duress us and take the Howling Mine, I think we're in trouble. Dark Ritual, just play Hypnotic Spectre. It's just Hypnotic Spectre, that's fine. We can beat Hypnotic Spectre, I think. No life gain off the tower. Tranquil Domain isn't really the one here, is it? Let's get Howling Mine in. I think having the land is more important than anything else in our hand. And we'll play it out. Because we want to have enough land that we can cast a Horn of Greed when the time comes. We've got nothing here, so we're just letting our opponent hit us with a Hypnotic Spectre. So they might be able to Funeral Charm us and end the game. Or end our hand, which will quite quickly end the game, I would imagine. Duress. They probably take the Tsabo's Web because it cantrips. And Tranquil Domain blows up our own permanent, so I think it's an easy shot. And then we lose the other card here. It makes sense to duress first in case one of our things is a land, because then the Hypnotic Spectre can hit the land. Plane of Void. Okay, so no guys. Maybe we could have bought out the Guy's Blessing, actually. So we're going Hellbent. At present, there isn't a rack, but that doesn't mean they don't have one. They might just be working on whittling away our resources. We'll yield to this. Ivory Tower. Horn of Greed. Horn of Greed. Come on. Howling Mine. I will play it. I'll play out this forest and pass. So we only get 1 go with our Moment's Peace. So maybe Tangle is better if we're expecting Plane of Void. We're going to just hands off the wheel for this turn. Mistress Factory. The rack. Okay. Things are bad. So we lose 3 and then we gain 0. Ivory Tower not really doing what it needs to. Come on. Howling Mine, get us that. We're getting Funeral Charmed. So that we don't have this land. That'd be annoying. It's annoying. Need to find Horn of Greed and a land. And then have just more lands on top of our library. Horn of Greed, step 1. Oh, really? Another Funeral Charm. Very rude behavior, opponent. I guess we're already in playing Glacial Chasm and sit behind it stage of the game. A little bit spooky. We need something that gives us Shroud. A Dust Bowl. That will remove our Glacial Chasm from play. Yikes. Goodbye, Glacial Chasm. I think our opponent is well and truly going to rack us to pieces. Constant Mist is not nothing. If they have a discard spell, they can take our Constant Mist. So maybe we're not even supposed to buy this back. Although it does keep the same number of cards in our hand. Right, I will buy this back. So if we don't get hit by any discard this turn, we're not going to take any damage to the rack. I have a feeling we're going to get Chain of Smog though. Just another hippie. Okay, I can live with that. Okay, we're in that position where maybe we could be stabilizing here. We're not taking damage this turn. And obviously we're drawing a bunch of cards. Another Howling Mine. That's fine. I guess we play these both out. Then we play out the Howling Mine. And at some point, we're going to be gaining some life off this Ivory Tower. But when exactly that happens, I don't know. If our opponent casts a Duress, then we just Constant Mists as a one-off. A Duress, okay. We're going to take 1 from the rack this turn. Unless our opponent Chain of Smogs us. In which case, we can just get into the bin, I suppose. Bottomless Pit. Yeah. That means we're taking 2 damage from this rack instead of 1. I don't think these should be attacking. There's no need for it. Oh, Ivory Tower, you are difficult to leverage. Tsabo's Web, though. Gaia's Blessing. I think we start off with the Tsabo's Web because it cantrips. So does the Gaia's Blessing, but Horn of Greed. To play our land. Drawing a card. 2, 4, 5. We're not, strictly speaking, dead. Unless our opponent Funeral Charms us. That's pretty bad. Maybe instead of playing the Horn of the Horn of Green found us the Naturalize, didn't it? Yeah. I think that is enough to kill us as well. Because these crash in for 4. We lose both. We just lose our entire hand here, don't we? Yeah, our opponent's got us. Right, GG's. That was a weird one. I wonder if there's some different ways we could approach this. So we finished the league with a 2-3. Obviously, 2 of those games were like super long ones that dragged on. And it seemed like it was the blue decks that were actually doing okay into, which I guess isn't a huge surprise because we forced them into drawing more cards than they want. They already want to be drawing cards. We're kind of punishing them for the thing they want to do using a Black Vise. And I think we could easily fix the Goblin matchup using Cursed Totem so we don't get bodied by things like Siege Gang Commander. So that would make a lot of sense. But the problem we had was things like Meddling Mage and Plague Spitter, or just creatures that can sit in play and mess us up. And we don't really have a good answer for that because we're playing green. And I'm not playing 6 mana for a Desert Twister, that's just too much. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe there's some card that I'm not aware of. I did mention Magma Mine. This is the card I was talking about. So it's 1 mana, and then for 4 mana you can put a pressure counter on it, and then you can sack it to deal damage equal to the number of pressure counters to any target. That is a weird option we could play. We can't really play anything like Powder Keg because it will blow up all of our like Howling Mines and Tsabo's Webs or whatever. So that's not really an option. We need something, and if you can think of something, please let me know because I would like to kind of innovate on this a bit more. It feels like this deck is halfway there. Like we learned that we needed some Tsabo's Webs for certain decks, and I'm glad we had them. Maybe we want more. We definitely want some Cursed Totems to stop the goblins. Maybe we need more ways of blowing up things, like more like Naturalize style effects. Obviously, we just lost to the rack deck, so my brain's thinking, oh, we need more artifact hate, like crumbles and things. But that's not always going to be the case because that's just one match. And maybe having the ability to blow up lots of enchantments will actually be really useful. I don't know, we're going to have to think about things a little bit more here, but I think the Cursed Totem is definitely going to be good. It also stops replenish decks, because if it's in play and they make everything, all their enchantments into creatures, they can't activate because of the Cursed Totem. So that's kind of interesting. So the Wall of Blossoms isn't required at all. We did board them in one matchup, but we didn't draw it anyway. And I don't think we need the 4 chokes, so we can definitely tweak around in the sideboard. In terms of the main deck, it felt pretty good, to be honest. I think we had the things we wanted. We would have gone 3-2 in this league if our Jeskai opponent wasn't running green for just 2 Gaia's Blessings in their main deck. That was a bit tilting for me. But if it wasn't for that, I think we win that matchup quite handily. So there's definitely some legs on this deck. We probably need some Graveyard Hate for when someone is doing that. Although maybe we can just rely on the Black Vise, but then they get to pretty much just sculpt their draw every turn. So if we get enough Howling Mines in play, they're basically just drawing 4 cards a turn, but they can only put back 3 a turn, and this draws 1. So that would get them if we get all the Howling Mines in play, but they're just going to be recycling Disenchant. So maybe we need some Graveyard Hate. And if you can think of a way in mono green to deal with creatures, please let me know. I'll just show you Hailstorm. That was one of the cards I was thinking of. So this is Hailstorm. It's 1 green instant, deals 2 damage to each attacking creature and 1 damage to you and each creature you control. So we take 1 and we Pyroclasm our opponent in green. Pretty weird and messed up card, but that could definitely help us out in some of the spots we found ourselves in. So I definitely want to play around with that. But once your opponent sees this once, they're not going to fall for it again. So the Meddling Mage is just going to stay home. And that's not going to help you very much. So we do need something to kill just a creature. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this panned out. Obviously, it was a complete brew from the start, and this is the very first time I was playing it. But yeah, pretty happy with how it went, and I hope you enjoyed watching our opponents be miserable and stuck under Howling Mine fog action. I wish we had the Sunstone, but found out the reason why it isn't online is because back in the day, Magic cards, the art used to still be like attached to the artist so that they would have to pay royalties if they used it, and they obviously don't have the rights to just put it wherever they want. So the royalties for the Sunstone or whatever is from a period where they can't put it in, which is why you see some of the cards from the older sets have different art online. But maybe they'll get a different art version for Sunstone at some point if I ask nicely. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.